So tonight, Stacey Becker with the GMRS group. And Stacey's a member of the group.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I have 3 GMRS repeaters in Tompkins County with the Racy's team in coordination with the doer. One of them reaches approximately 80 miles, the other one's about 70. And then I have a small repeater on the south end of town that reaches about 30, 35. They're typically quite active. So I was asked to do a presentation, an introduction to GMRS, and put this little slideshow together, and feel free to ask any questions you might have. So everybody in the room knows GMRS is UHF. It's a smidge under 70 centimeters. Ranges from about 65 to 67 centimeters. It's typically considered by the FCC as a short range communication. A lot of people use it for car-to-car use, hiking, talking to family members nearby. Repeaters are used quite actively because the radios don't have long transmission distances, and they're typically meeting places for people for rag chew, emergency communications for situations where the cell phones go down, and internet. Repeater operators are typically more serious radio enthusiasts, or like hams. They have better equipment, towers, bigger antennas. The licensing requirements, there is none. No testing. Pay $35 currently, was 70. 10-year term like every other FCC license. It also covers you and your immediate family. That's been stretched out over the years to aunts and uncles. I understand that the FCC is going to pull that back in to people within the household. The allocated frequencies, there's only 30 channels, 22 simplex and 8 repeater channels. So the hundreds of repeaters around the state are occupying 8 channels only with different CTCS tones. 1 through 7 is a wideband, 5 watt max. 8 through 14 is a narrow band, half watt max. 15 through 22 are 50 watt. Repeater channels 22 through 30 share the simplex on the output frequency of the repeater input on the radio. They are plus 5 offset always. 50 watt max on the repeater. And that includes the repeater as well. FRS Family Radio Service shares all 22 simplex channels. So
does every crane operator in the county?
yes, there you go. All right. Anybody that cares about radio runs RX and TX tones. So they don't have to listen to all the crane operators. Ask for extra donuts. There's a line that not a lot of GMRS users know about, and it's line A. And it actually travels quite low through New York State. Through line A and C, you may not operate on channels 462, 650, 67, 650, and 700, and 67, 700. That was an old-timey agreement between Canada and the United States that we wouldn't occupy those frequencies. These are readily available online. Here's an example of line A, which actually travels below Syracuse. So the Conhell 650 repeater actually can't be utilized with anybody above line A legally, unless if your license is so old that you can utilize those frequencies, which I don't think anybody in this room would ever have.
Where's line C?
That's off to the east.
And those are some of the reasons that the hams and GMRSs have butt heads over the years. You know, the GMRS stuff that took place when they just couldn't on radio any place with the bell thing, and they're jumping on every frequency anywhere, and that would happen. And so often, a ham club would be asked to go try to figure it out and deal with it. That's so much better now because of good organizers like Stacey that runs a tight ship.
So once again, repeater offset is always +5. All repeaters run wideband as well on GMRS. ID is a little different than ham. Instead of 10-minute ID, you're on 15-minute ID. DCS tones are not very common in GMRS. They are available, they can be used, but typically you'll find a CTCSS tones on the repeaters. Such as 136.5, 156.7, normal tones that we use here on amateur stuff. Split tones are very rarely used. That's for people that don't want anybody on the repeater and or want to try and charge you something to use it. I have run across it once or twice. Unlike amateur radio, linking of the repeaters is not allowed in any way, shape, or form. Oh, yeah, so we had a huge network of repeaters. That's kind of how I got hooked up with this whole thing. The Alliance had a 4 or 5 repeater network that they had linked through a I don't know what they had I can't remember what type of system they utilized, but yes,
They stole it. Basically, they rewrote Echo Link for themselves.
yeah,
And
pretty
on the All-Star system.
and it had, yeah, it was a pretty complex GMRS system, but the FCC stepped in and shut them down. I've talked to people at the Pyramid Mall in Canada on GMRS through that system. So that was quite a slap when we got that taken away from us. That would kind of limited our comms to what FCC really designed them for. MyGMRS.com is the most popular place to find repeaters in your area, frequencies, tones, permission for access if it's a private system. All of the repeaters in this area. I've provided the repeaters and duplexers. The county's provided the towers, and Racy's team has provided access to all that stuff. Every bit of it. There's a mapping system on MyGMRS, so you can map a trip if you wanted to. Save it to your Icon 5100 or your. This is the MyGMRS website. That's a picture of the whole United States. It typically lists how many repeaters are in that certain area. You'll see as Ellie zooms in on them. So this would be the Mount Pleasant 725, which shares the same site as the Ithaca 94. This is the R600 in Danby and the Connecticut Hill 650. I'll click on it. Typically will bring up a menu like this. It'll show you the basic frequencies. So if you know the 462 650 frequency, you know it's a +5 offset. And that's all the information you need to get it on your radio. These are open repeaters because we use them for other things than rag chewing, and we want to see emergency comms used on them if necessary. So very disciplined to try and keep a 5-second rule between transmissions to leave space for emergency to get in. We have a net on the Con Hill every Tuesday at 8 p.m. If anybody wants to join into that, and if you're looking for somebody to talk on the radio, $35, and I guarantee you somebody will answer you.
It is busy.
So true GMRS radios are Type 95 certified. There is some things in the rules that are gray that say a Type 90 modified to Mars modded is okay. Somebody in this room would argue that with me, but anyway, commercial radios, Kenwoods, Motorola's, you know, they typically run on GMRS frequencies, which is why I can roll into a tower site for the county and get on a completely badass antenna. And we roll in with 2 meter for you guys, and there's nothing there because they're not normally at those sites. Backup paging's on our frequency, Med 10. There's a bunch of county stuff that's really close to GMRS, so I typically get lucky when I pull in and hook up a repeater. Which is why we struggle with the 2 meter stuff. Unfortunately, most of the Type 95 certified radios are China. Wuxin is probably one of the top of the line, any tone you've probably heard of. Midland. Can keep your truck from rolling down the driveway. South Bank can probably start your neighbor's microwave.
It's true.
Radiolity, they're just buying everybody else's junk, put their name on it. It is UHF, so premium coax is paramount, and wattage does matter, antenna height is huge. If you have any interest in putting up GMRS stuff at your home, I can help you not buy things 2 or 3 times. Anybody have any questions? Anybody have any interest in GMRS?
How many people here have GMRS licenses?
Nice.
Why would we use GMRS? Like, because I'm trying to kind of figure that out. What my guess is entry to barrier extremely low. Nobody wants to take a test. They can generate it very easily, chat with their friends, and it seems like there's like some type of encoding that you can do if you don't want somebody listening. And when I'm thinking with like GMRS, FRS, I'm thinking of like a Garmin radio, channel 6, code 9, you and me talk.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy. Don't deal with cell phones.
Hiking group and stuff.
Prepper type of mentality. Is that where GMRS kind of?
Yep, and another instance of that would be is WSET 926 and WSET 926A. $35, no test, husband and wife on the radio all the time. A would be the wife. So you can share your license.
Oh, okay.
My ham license,
Yeah.
my wife can't use KE2 EAA to get on HF.
My wife and I would go skiing and snowboarding. We could, use the GMRS radios to talk to each other, and she doesn't have to be licensed.
So it's very appealing. I think it's one of the fastest growing radio segments there is, I believe.
Stacey.
Yeah.
You might mention that Mike Steitley has shown definite interest in getting good coverage in GMRS when they're looking for lost people hiking.
Yeah,
Here.
I mean, you could give some examples on that.
And it is a funded program by the county now. GMRS as a whole is now a funded program for RACES and for emergency communications to be able to get a better program, to be able to have it more visible to hikers and people that are out and about in our nature areas, especially areas that Stacey's put a tremendous amount of time into finding where there's a lack of cell coverage. Stacey is tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket for the GMRS program that's in this county that a lot of people use. And I can't even begin to tell you the use that it gets, but the effort to have those pockets that are RF voids otherwise is now a funded program and an actual structured program through RACES, through the Department of Emergency Response.
Do you think it's worthwhile to talk a little bit about the difference between the family radio service and the GMRS?
I want to say something that Ross had something to say.
I can tell you, New York State Parks and Recreation has been pushing GMRS very heavily, especially in the Adirondacks region for the past 3 years. Because I've been part of at least 20 search and rescue operations up there over the past 15 years. And it gets expensive when you have to go out looking for someone who has no damn way of calling you and telling you where they are, or either has no clue where the hell they are. So New York State Parks has put a lot of money into pushing this.
Yeah, Mike Steitley wanted this to happen.
Yeah.
And I came along at the right time, and right place, between the pair of us and everybody else. Yeah, we have pretty good coverage here.
Well, I hope that you had the right expertise and the right attitude.
I did. Jamie did all the expertise and I just provided a bad attitude.
There's an effort at the state and federal level also to be able to help fund signs even at the entranceways to the unique areas, to the walking areas and the trails. Very similar to what you see with the small trail markers at the trailheads and on the large conservation board areas, to be able to have a laminated protected document that will say, hey, just so you know, this area has with a map of the coverage. Can't guarantee there's going to be somebody listening, but help us help you carry this radio. And our RACES team is taking a very big effort. Stacey has spearheaded that as well. Built a great pamphlet to be able to hand out. And the reason GMRS has grown so much is one of the other reasons that ham radio is failing. It's because our attitudes, as what they jokingly call sad hams, was awful. And we were, the ham radio operators in general for a while were just nasty to GMRS people as they were CB people. They embraced, they took that and ran with it. Like Kevin said, like Feeney said, GMRS growing like it is the equivalent to general aviation and the people buying ultralights and saying, screw all you fancy snobs. We're just gonna go do our own thing and play and have fun. And they have surpassed us with their ability, with their tech and to be able to talk to each other.
Yeah, as has been said, if you're lost, you have no cell phone, and you really need to contact somebody, go with a GMRS repeater.
Yeah.
You're much more likely to find somebody there.